Let's begin by talking about the color wheel. The color wheel is a universal tool. Knowing and understanding color theory will help you become a confident and powerful colorist. The most incredible thing about understanding color theory is that it really doesn't matter which color brand you decide to work with. You might enjoy working with Paul Mitchell or Redken or Wella or Schwarzkopf. As long as you have a great understanding of color theory, you will still be a powerful and confident hair colorist. There are a few careers that also use the color wheel. Some of those careers are digital graphic artists and makeup artists, painters and website designers, magazine editors, jewelry designers, even chefs and landscapers use universal color wheels. The law of color. The law of color is a true law that can never be changed. This is a great law because that means that using hair color can be very predictable. Much like the law of gravity, what goes up must always come down. What that means for us is that red plus blue will always equal violet. Primary colors. Primary colors cannot be made by mixing any other colors. There are three primary colors: yellow, red, and blue. Secondary colors are created by mixing equal parts of two primary colors. The first secondary color is green. Green is made up of 1 part yellow and 1 part blue. The next secondary color is violet. Violet is made up of 1 part red and 1 part blue. The last secondary color is orange. Orange is made up of 1 part red and 1 part yellow. Now let's talk about tertiary colors. Tertiary colors are created by mixing equal parts of one primary and a secondary color. Our first tertiary color, starting at yellow and working our way to the right, is yellow-green. Yellow-green is made up of 2 parts yellow and 1 part blue. Yellow-green lives the closest to the primary color yellow. Therefore, we have 2 parts yellow and 1 part blue. The next tertiary color is blue-green. Blue-green is made up of 2 parts blue and 1 part yellow. Our third tertiary color is blue-violet. Blue-violet lives the closest to the primary color of blue. Therefore, it's made up of 2 parts blue and 1 part red. Another great way to look at this is that blue-violet is made up of 1 part blue and violet. Violet is made up of 1 part blue and 1 part red. Therefore, blue plus red equals blue-violet. Our next tertiary color is red-violet. Red-violet lives closest to the primary color of red. Therefore, it's made up of 2 parts red and 1 part blue. Red-orange. Red-orange lives closest to the primary color red. Therefore, it's made up of 2 parts red and 1 part yellow, which is the next closest primary color. Again, you can look at this another way. Red-orange is made up of 1 part red, and orange is made up of 1 part red and 1 part yellow. Therefore, red plus yellow equals red-orange. Our last tertiary color is yellow-orange. Yellow-orange lives the closest to the primary color of yellow. Therefore, it's made up of 2 parts yellow and 1 part red, which is the next closest primary color. We also have neutral colors. A neutral color is created when all 3 primary colors are mixed together in equal parts. If we mix 1 part yellow and 1 part blue and 1 part red, we will have a neutral color. These are also known as our browns. About tone. Tone is the warmth or coolness of a color. We have different tones. We have warm tones, we have cool tones, and we have neutral tones. When choosing a hair color, you must choose the tonal end result that your guest desires. It can sometimes be difficult for our guests to understand the meaning of tone. What they picture in their heads and what we picture and know as professionals may not always be the same thing. When you say warm to them, their mind might automatically go to just the color red. When you say cool to them, their minds might automatically go to browns. So, showing photos and being on the same page is super important when choosing tone. You can also give your guests visuals. You can let them know that warm tones include reds, yellows, oranges, and golds. Have them picture a warm sunset. Warm tones may also appear slightly lighter, simply because there's less saturation of these warm tones. Cool tones include colors containing blues and violets. Cool tones may appear slightly darker, which means you may have to adjust your formulas to take into consideration that there might be more saturation. You can explain cooler tones to guests by having them picture a deeper evening sunset where you see blues and violets and shadows under the trees. Neutral tones are a balance of both warm and cool tones. Neutral tones are made up of an equal part of red, yellow, and blue. Anytime we add primary colors, it changes the way the neutral tones appear. For example, if we have a neutral tone made up of an equal part of red, yellow, and blue, and we add an additional primary color such as red or yellow, we now get a warm neutral. If we add an additional primary color of blue, or blue and red, which gives us violet, now we've created a cooler neutral tone. It's important to explore during your consultation which tones your guests do enjoy and which tones do they absolutely not enjoy. You will have guests that tell you, I absolutely hate red. You will also have guests that tell you they can't stand brassy tones. These are important things to find out before you start mixing. If your guests have tones that they like to see, you can intensify and you can enhance those tones by choosing similar tones. If the guests have tones that they absolutely do not want to see, such as brassy tones, then you can neutralize those tones. But first, let's take a preview of some of those tones. On the left, we have a cool blonde. Notice that there is no yellow in her hair. There's no red in her hair. There's no gold in her hair. Therefore, she's a cooler blonde. On the right, we have a warm blonde. You'll notice oranges and golds and yellows and maybe even some underlying reds. Next, we have our brunettes. Some people look at the brunettes and they just see brown, but you have to train your eye to see the tones. The cool brunette is lacking in warm tones. There's no yellow or gold or red. The warm brunette, however, has definite oranges and yellows and maybe even some underlying reds. We have a cool red and a warmer red. Which one of these has more oranges and yellows? That would be the warm red. The cool red is filled with more violety tones. Therefore, the cool red also appears a bit darker to the eye. The warm red appears a bit lighter and brighter. To neutralize an unwanted tone, we choose the complementary color that is opposite of that unwanted tone. I'm going to show you a few examples now. The first example is yellow and violet. If you lighten your guest hair and it turns yellow, if yellow is the tone that is not wanted, you simply go across to the opposite side of your color wheel and choose violet. This is how it works. Yellow is made up of yellow. Violet is made up of 1 part red and 1 part blue. Remember, anytime we have equal parts of a yellow, a red, and a blue, it gives us a neutral. Another example is red and green. If you've lightened your guest's hair and it's turned red, and that's your unwanted tone, you simply go across to the opposite side of the color wheel and choose the complementary color of green. This is how it works. Red is made up of red. Green is made up of yellow and blue. Once again, we've evened out or balanced out our primary colors, which will give us a neutral tone. Here's another example: yellow-orange and blue-violet. If we've lightened our guest hair to school bus yellow-orange and we have an unwanted tone, we go across and we will see blue-violet. This is how this one works. Yellow-orange is made up of 2 parts yellow and 1 part red. Blue-violet is made up of 2 parts blue and 1 part red. What we have is a balanced primary color. We have 2 yellows, 2 blues, and 2 reds, all in equal parts. When we put those together, it gives us a neutral tone. What happens if you don't go directly across the wheel and find the complementary colors? Sometimes in the salon, things can get a little hectic, and once in a while we might guess. We have to be careful when we guess because we could choose the wrong complementary color. You may only partially neutralize an unwanted tone, or you may end up turning the guest's hair an undesirable color. Here's an example. If your guest has hair that's been lightened to yellow, and you don't go directly across and choose violet to cancel out the yellow, but instead you choose a tube of color with a blue base. Remember, color theory never lies to us, and the law of color tells us that yellow and blue will always make green. What will happen is that you'll turn that yellow hair to a green cast. How does color theory relate to hair? Let's discuss the level system, dominant pigments, and tonal bases of hair color. The level system. The level system ranges from 1 to 10. Colorists use the level system to measure the darkness or the lightness of hair. Level 1 is always the darkest, or black hair, and level 10 is always the lightest, or platinum hair. An easy way to remember the level system is to think of a set of stairs that goes from the ground all the way up to the sun. If we start at stair 1 or level 1, black hair, it's darker. This is where our shadows and our cooler tones live. The higher the amount of stairs we climb or the amount of levels we go up, the brighter things become. When we reach that stair or level number 10, that's where it's the lightest, the brightest, and the warmest. Try and guess the levels of the hair in the following photos. This guest's hair is jet black. Therefore, she is a level 1. On the left, we have a photo that's slightly lighter than a level 1. She might be closer to a level 2. This guest could be a 3/4 because she has different tones and levels in her hair. This guest might be a level 5 and a level 6. Notice they could have artificial color. You can have a level 6 in natural color, and you may also have a level 6 in an artificial tube of color. Here we have what's close to a level 7 and a level 8. And when we reach the highest levels, levels 9 and 10, we're moving towards our platinum colors. At a level 9, the hair is yellow, and at our level 10, the hair is incredibly pale yellow to almost white. With practice and experience, a colorist will train their eyes to see both level and tone in natural and artificial color. Here are a few examples. All 3 of these photos are guests with a level 10 lightest blonde, but they're different tones. The first one is a level 10 warm blonde. There are still some yellows in her hair. The next one is a guess, level 10, lightest blonde, but the tone is more neutral. She's somewhere in the middle of a warm and a cool. The last image is of a guest at a level 10, lightest blonde, who is completely cool. Notice she's lacking any warmth in her hair. This is an example of guests with level 4 or 5, medium to dark brown hair at different tones. The first photo is of a guest with warm brown hair color. Notice the oranges and the reds, the coppers in her hair. The middle is more of a neutral. She's somewhere in the middle. She has a little bit of warmth and a little bit of coolness, but she's not extreme on one side or the other. The last one is more of a cool brown. Notice she's lacking the warmth that the first photo has. What is dominant pigment? Dominant pigment is a term that's used to identify underlying tone in hair color. It's also the pigment that remains in hair and is exposed when the natural color is lightened with a bleach. Now that we've discussed the level system and you understand dominant pigment, let's talk about how they work together. At a level 1, which is black hair, the dominant pigment is blue. At a level 2, the dominant pigment is blue-violet. At a level 3, the dominant pigment is violet. And at a level 4, the dominant pigment is red-violet. At a level 1, 2, 3, and 4, you cannot see those dominant pigments to the naked eye. They are too dark. But what you will see is when you put lightener on hair and it lifts and reaches a level 5. At a level 5, the dominant pigment is red, and that's the first underlying pigment that you'll see show up when you're lightening darker hair. At a level 6, the dominant pigment is red-orange. At a level 7, the dominant pigment is orange. At a level 8, the dominant pigment is yellow-orange. And once you've lightened hair to a level 9 and 10, the dominant pigment is yellow to pale yellow. There's also dominant pigment of yellow-green, green, and blue-green. These underlying pigments are not directly related to hair color levels, as they do not naturally live in a natural hair color. They do, however, live in artificial tubes of color. So, here's an example. If you lift your guest to a level 5, and the dominant pigment of red shows through. If red is an unwanted pigment that you want to neutralize, you would go directly across the wheel to the green. Here you could choose a tube of color that has a dominant pigment of green to neutralize the natural red. Tonal bases and hair color. Every hair color line has their own unique names for the tonal bases found in each individual tube or bottle of hair color. Some examples are WM or warm mahogany, RV or red violet, CC for cool copper, RB ruby brown, NG natural gold, and WB warm beige. Notice the photo of Paul Mitchell, The Color, tubes of color. The one in the front says 5VR. This shows us that it's a level 5 violet red tonal base. Some color lines use a number stroke system to label their color tubes. The first number often represents the level, and the second number often represents the tonal base. Every color line has a tonal base chart to help guide you to the correct tube for the tonal base you desire. Just remember, you have to know and understand color theory and the universal color wheel to guide you to know which tonal base you need to choose.